Welcome to the Indie Music Room, a conversation with independent artists about writing, recording, performing, and promoting their original music. And now here's your host, Heather Kelly.
Everybody, you're listening to Heather Kelly with the Indie Music Room, and I'm very excited to talk with the Artist of the Month for July already. I want to give a big welcome to Eric Nelson. Eric, hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Heather. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to do this. I know you're a busy man, but you got some reputation around here of being a really great musician.
Oh, did I come by it honestly? Did I earn that?
I don't know. We'll talk about that and see. But what's great is, for some reason, I've been doing people internationally, but when I thought about 4th of July, Independence Day, I thought about bringing someone who's from Fort Dodge back home for an interview. So
very cool.
Well, let's get started. Tell me a little bit, all the way to the beginning. How did you start this? How did you start music?
Wow. If you want to go all the way back to the beginning, I will tell you a story that my mom tells me all the time. I was born on November 4th, 1980. And the week leading up to that was this unseasonably warm weather. And the day I was born, which by the way was the day Ronald Reagan was elected the first time. And my doctor told my mom, don't ruin election day for me. Apparently there was a real nasty blizzard. and the snow stayed on the streets and everything else, and getting there wasn't pleasant and getting home wasn't pleasant. But my mom tells me that while they were driving me home, they had the radio turned on and there was a tune. And now I'll be honest with you, I can't remember the story exactly because I was 3 days old and all, so it's not coming to me. But there was a song by the Hawks on the radio at that exact moment. It was either Right Away or It's All Right, It's Okay. I can't remember. And my family knows everybody in the Hawks. And for some reason, my mom decided to say, that's your Uncle Larry on drums. And anyway, Larry Adams. So if you want me to take you all the way back to the beginning, I've been into music since I was 3 days old.
No kidding. Well, I think you and I have that in common is our dads are friends.
Yes.
And your dad, Big B, we call him Big B. But, he was a musician and my dad as well. So, my dad was the one who said, you've got to interview Eric. And so
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, exactly.
There's an old picture of me back when they would take, pictures on an Instamatic camera with the bulb on top that had four sides, and it's me, and I'm old enough to stand up, but I don't know how old I was. And I had headphones on like this, and I had my hands on the headphones, and I'm rocked back like this, and I'm listening to my dad, Big B, Brian Nelson, on the couch playing bass guitar. And then my mom snapped a picture of it. It's in a photo album somewhere in the pile of stuff over here. Yeah. So we've had music in the family, instruments in the house, guests over, practice in the basement. And I've just been into music since before I can remember.
Right. So tell me, were you involved in high school, or when was your first band, or when did you decide this is what I want to do?
Yeah, that's funny. I was so into Huey Lewis and the News when I was a really little kid that in 5th grade, when I learned that I could take saxophone lessons, just like Johnny from Huey Lewis and the News, I started saxophone in 5th grade. And by halfway through 6th grade, I picked up a guitar that was in the house, and I showed enough aptitude for playing, I guess, that my dad showed me a couple of chords. And at that moment, halfway through 6th grade, so I would have been about 12 years old, I said, I don't want to take lessons to play saxophone anymore. I want to play guitar in my bedroom and figure it out myself with my dad's help. Never took a lesson for guitar either, but my dad would help me figure out power chords to play Weezer and Green Day. And from there, it was like the end of 8th grade. Some buddies of mine who we were all in health class together. They told me that they were down in the music room after school, all of them playing guitar with Mr. Ellerston.
Oh my gosh, I had him as a teacher too.
Did you? And, after school one day, would I like to come downstairs and learn how to play Hey Joe, right? Just the chords for Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix. And I said, sure, why not? And the four of us who were down there that day started a band. We were called Dirty Laundry.
Wasn't there a song out there called Dirty, like something?
Yeah,
Dirty Laundry or something?
Oh yeah, Don Henley's song "Dirty Laundry." Yeah, so I guess my first band was in middle school. That's crazy.
That's great. So your first band was young, and then how did you kind of start moving along? Other bands, etc.
Sure. Somewhere in between the garage band, which continued through high school, and going on to college and meeting the guys who I would end up playing in this band with. I did some solo stuff. I used to go out to KICB, the college radio station, and just play live on the air. I'd write songs and come out and play them on the air. I put out my own cassette.
That ages us when you say cassette.
I know. This was 97 or 98. This was when Chris Carr, who we all know from the music scene and from Eighth Note Music and everything else that Chris does, when he and his family lived up in Minnesota, my dad and I would go visit, and I took a couple of original tunes up there with me, and I played all the other parts, and Chris played the drums, and I brought them home and dubbed like 24 cassettes and made my friends pay for them. So that was kind of the intermediate, weird, transitional. I still had kind of like a mullet, but didn't know what to do with it, writing like real melancholy songs, transition era. And then went to college up in Storm Lake at Buena Vista. Met a guy named Max who was at a house party sitting I can't say that anymore. Crisscross applesauce on the floor.
Sure.
And he was drinking beer and throwing the empty cans up into the ceiling fan.
Oh my God.
And my roommate at the time said, "Yeah, that's Max." Well, I had classes with Max and struck up conversations over music and bands that we were both into and punk rock. And he said, "I play bass." And I said, "I need a bass player." And, at the time I had played around a little bit with a drummer who was in town. He's got a tattoo shop here in Des Moines now. His name is Mike Diamond. He runs Sacred Diamond here in Des Moines.
Okay.
So we jammed a little bit, and then another friend of mine from Fort Dodge named Justin Bristow, he played drums with us a little bit. We played a couple gigs up in Storm Lake, and I don't know. Then there's a little break because we both graduated and need to kind of get our footing as real life adults. And when we finally did, we just got this itch. We're like, we got to get back out there and play again. Like 3 shows on campus at Buena Vista was not enough. Yeah. And so we found another drummer. Max was working with the guy who played drums, and
Max, brought him in. And Eric, right?
So these guys, you know what's funny about those guys? So at this point in the story, we're at about 2005.
Okay.
Jason and Eric have been in the band since 2010, which is 11 years ago, and I still call them the new drummer and guitar player. Because we went through so many iterations, just a rotating door of drummers and everything else that, so we found this other guy, and he scratched the itch. He knew how to play, and we knew what we wanted to do. We wanted to get out there and play gigs. So it was about once a month at the Reverb in Cedar Falls. And then we started to come down to Des Moines and booked shows at Harry Mary's and then the House of Bricks. And it's always been just total do-it-yourself. Write your own music, put out your own CDs or cassettes, screen print your own T-shirts, and book your own shows and see where it goes. So it's been fun ever since.
Wonderful. Well, I'll tell you what. We are going to hear one of your songs right now, and then when we come back from it, you can tell me a little bit about it. So right now we're going to listen to Tip of My Tongue.
It's on the tip of my tongue, it's in the back of my brain. I'm not a doctor, but I think this'll drive me insane. Hey! Tongue, it's in the back of my brain. I'm not a doctor, but I think this'll drive me insane. I feel it swirl in my mouth, I feel it drip down my throat. And if it weren't for epiglottis, well, I'd probably choke. Say I didn't think that tomorrow depends on today, but now I'm biting my lip, and it's cramping my style. Said I'm gonna get it right, but it might take a while. on the tip of my tongue, it's in the back of my brain. I'm not a doctor, but I think this will drive me insane. I feel it freaking me out, I feel it sucks and it blows. And if you ask me to stop, well baby, that's how it goes. Tied like a sailor's knot, I swear there's nothing worse. This tongue's a blessing, and this blessing is a curse. Whoa! It's on the tip of my tongue, it's in the back of my brain. I'm not a doctor, but I think this'll drive me insane. It's at the top of my lungs, it's on the back of my neck. I never thought that I'd turn and become such a wreck. It's at the tips of my fingers and the tips of my toes. And if you're asking me yes, well then I'll probably say no. The tip of my tongue, it's in the back of my brain. I'm not a doctor, but I think this will drive me insane. I'm not a doctor, but I think this will drive me insane. I'm not a shrink, but I think I can drink you away.
That was Tip of My Tongue, written by Eric Nelson and performed. It's wonderful. I love that song. You know, to me, when I listen to it, it kind of brings me back to my Green Day, like Blink 182 or something like that. I get it. I like that music. I like that style.
Totally. That's the era of inspiration for Hold For Swank. You know, we're sort of a band out of time in a little bit, you know, like we're very like late 90s pop. Still, we're like 40 years old.
I think you're more pop rock than just pop. I think you've got a rock edge too. So power pop rock, or I don't know, but I
love it. I love it. I'll take that label any day. It's that song. I want to say that I wrote that song. I had a goal. I've tried to write my most recent songs with kind of a goal in mind, and this one was simplify things.
Right.
So for the longest time, when Hold For Swank was a 3-piece, we only had me on guitar. And when I would write songs at home, I tried to fill space with, I mean, if there's 13 notes, you know, in an octave, I probably put 13 chords in a song thinking that I needed to fill the space. And then when we picked up Jason, our new 11-year plus new guitar player, at one point we're practicing and he said, how many chords did you put in this song? And I said, okay, I have a goal. I'm going to write a song that's literally A, E, B, E, like over and over and over again, and to simplify this thing. And then the idea of like something is just, it's on the tip of my tongue and I can't quite spit it out. And then the rest of the thought process behind the song is, and the band really, you know, our first album was real like angsty-ish, like sad, I can't like get the girl sort of thing. And then the second album was a little bit angrier, like, why can't I get the girl? What's going on?
I did notice that. Yeah.
Yes. And so this album was very much more like, okay, I've already lived that whole whiny part of my life. It's time to grow up a little bit. And so some of it is like, the things I want to say are on the tip of my tongue, but I better not, because it's going to make me sound bad and look bad. So there's a line about biting your tongue in there. And then anyway, and to wrap up the other inspiration for the song, there's a part in the bridge where it's a lot of like single notes.
Yeah.
And as opposed to like hitting big power chords. And I thought, you know, I grew up listening to Weezer, like I said before, and on their album Pinkerton, they had a lot of noise, but the older I got, the more I listened to it. A lot of that noise was constructed by one note at a time, but strummed differently. And I thought, why don't I try that? Like, why don't I stretch myself by playing fewer chords and sometimes even playing one note at a time? That was my idea of simplifying my music, and that's where Tip of My Tongue came from.
Speaking of some of your music, tell me how your recording process is. Do you record at other studios? Do you do it at home now?
No, we haven't really done any home recording. I don't feel like we have let me speak for myself. I don't have the patience to record myself.
Right.
I don't have the patience to play, mess up, stop, reach over and hit the space bar, mark it, slide it, cross fade it. I don't have the patience for that stuff. So anytime we've recorded, we've gone to somebody else's studio. The first album it's funny how many of these have cropped up over the last 40 years, but the first one was in Cedar Falls in a friend's parents' barn,
Okay.
which you and I are accustomed to that scenario, that setup. We actually recorded a couple of tunes at Junior's Motel back in like 05 or 04, somewhere in that range. And
Okay.
I have the CDR, like I have a stack of those CDRs in my unfinished room in my basement with the CD like label stomper on it.
Yeah.
Second album was recorded over by Perry in a town called Jamaica, Iowa.
I've heard of that. Yeah, I've heard of that studio.
The studio was, I'm not sure how active it still is, called the Sound Farm.
Yeah.
I know that Slipknot recorded one of their albums there and a bunch of other folks have come by. And this latest one was here in Des Moines, a studio on the south side of town. Super cool guy who worked at the advertising agency where I work. He's in a band also. We knew he had good gear. We knew he could record rock music. Great rate. And we got in there and knocked it out in a couple weeks over a bottle of Four Roses and some hot tea and made a killer record.
Yeah, I have to agree. I love everything I've heard of yours. I went through and I've been kind of listening to Spotify and all your links you sent me, which we'll talk about with our fans later on. But the next song I want to talk about is called Little Shy Girl.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So
tell me about that one.
Well, yeah, I'll give you just a snippet. I'll give you the inspiration, and then I don't know if we want to talk more about it after we listen to it.
We might have to.
Yeah, I'm from Fort Dodge, right? And you are too, and we're Little Chicago.
Yeah.
And something about, real quick note. There was a band that I listened to in the early 2000s. They were from Manhattan, Kansas, and they were called Ultimate Fake Book. And they put out a song called Little Apple Girl. Mm-hmm. Well, Manhattan, Kansas, they call the Little Apple.
Yeah.
And I'm not lying, I was just sitting in my car as some ideas just come to you in the strangest places. I might have even listening to the song and thought, well, if they can write a song called Little Apple Girl about their hometown, certainly I can write a song called Little Shy Girl about Little Chicago.
Right.
And hence the song.
Hence the song. Well, anybody that grew up where we did will know what we're talking about. So here we're going to listen to Little Shy Girl.
Chalk it up to fate, this town so small. Where we're from, there's no hiding at all. Little shy girl, your reputation precedes you, and you say the ones who need you, you don't need. Now no one's gonna plead for you, pussy. You can shake it, but don't break it, baby. Take the girl out of her little world, pack her bags and make her leave. But you can't take the town out of a girl who's down. up a fight. You know that I'm right. Just 'cause you're out of mind, it doesn't mean you're out of sight, girl. So stay out all night. You won't see the light. Not waving, not from such great heights. You can take the girl out of her little world. Pack her bags and make her leave. But you can't take the town out of a girl who's down with what she's brought up to believe. Oh, this black hole sucks you back. Don't hurt yourself defying gravity. Repetition, expect different. That's how they define insanity.
That was Little Shy Girl. And did you want to add more to that song? Because it kind of does speak volumes.
It's so I will say something musically about the song.
Yes.
Another one of those goals of mine, like how can I kind of squeeze in or ratchet in, even if it's an Easter egg for myself, like what's something fun that I can put in there. And if you remember the song by Stone Temple Pilots called Interstate Love Song, they had a chord in that song. It was and of course I put myself on the spot and can't think of the words of the song. Do you laugh or does it cry? Reply, right? There's a chord in that part of the song that's the simplest chord. I think it's the 3 in the key that it's in, but it just hits so weird. Like it's like this. It's not dissonant, but it's like, you know, it's going to lead you into something else. Like it's going to just like careen you into the next part of the song. And I thought, I don't use enough of that chord. So I figured out the chord, the beat and the patterns and the strumming and the chords for Little Shy Girl. And then I'm like, I want to put that chord in this song because I want people to feel like there's something coming next. Mm-hmm. So Little Shy Girl, your reputation precedes you. Let's see. How does it go? We just listened to it, right? Little Shy Girl. How about I've heard about you lately. Let's chalk it up to fate. This town so small. Right. That is a complete ripoff of Interstate Love Song from Stone Temple Pilots. Where we're from, there's no hiding at all. So the idea was like, you know, something else is coming. What is it? So I just wanted people to I wanted to grab them by the ear a little bit and say, keep listening because there's something coming. Mm-hmm. And then the lyrics were just seriously like, I put myself back at home. I kind of put myself in the position of like, you know, everywhere I've moved, and I say I'm from Fort Dodge. I moved to Waterloo. Uh-huh. And I worked at the newspaper for a while, and a coworker said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Fort Dodge." And he said, "Ooh, that's a rough town."
I was scared of Waterloo when I was a kid.
See, that's what I thought hearing from him. I thought if a guy from Waterloo says Fort Dodge is a rough town, maybe I've got some street cred around here. So the line in the song, your reputation precedes you, is that, right? I don't know, just little things that we pick up from our hometown and where we live. And honestly, like that is a song that I would say probably 80% of the people in America could probably write that song about their hometown. And it just so happened to be about Fort Dodge.
Perfect. Well, we're all going to love it here in the hometown.
All right.
I was going to ask you a question. This last year and a half has been a bust, but have you played live, or I heard you just did a virtual concert. Is that true?
Yes, that was an interesting one. That was about as much as we could do during the pandemic. Uh-huh. All the community colleges across the state, if I'm telling the story correctly, pooled their entertainment money together. You know, students were still paying obviously tuition and room and board or whatever they had to pay, but they were paying entertainment fees, and so the schools had to provide entertainment. Right. And so, the activities directors from all the community colleges put their heads together and said, "What can we do? What schedule can we put together?" And a buddy of mine from Buena Vista, who now works at Iowa Lakes, asked me, could I get you guys to play a virtual concert? Because they had also like magicians and like motivational speakers and Lord knows what else, right? So we said, yeah, sure. So we went to our guitarist's garage over in Tama, and we put a bunch of cameras everywhere, and I put one on a microphone stand right next to me.
That's
and
cool.
yeah, and my laptop was across the room, and we just logged onto Zoom and we played a virtual concert for like an hour. It was really, actually, it was fun because we hadn't played in a room together for a few months at that point.
Right.
We hadn't played to any sort of crowd, and you could see the chat, and you knew that people were watching.
They were watching. Well, everybody wants that again, that interaction.
Yeah, we can't wait to get out and play shows again in front of people. We have fun doing it, and we hope that translates into other people having fun, or at least laughing at our expense, I guess, whatever works.
I've been there before. So your last song here, we're going to talk about, this one's different than the first two. I love it. I think there's a little bit of Hometown Boy in it, but this one is called This Old Honky Tonk.
This was a fun one. I will tell you more about the song after we listen to it, but I will say that my dad playing in bands as I was growing up was mostly country and western bands. There was a band that he played with called the Outriders. They'd play 6 nights a week at the Holiday House or all these different lounges, the Starlight, Best Western, and all that. And then after that, of course, he played with Shadrick Smith and the Frontier Fiddle Band and the Billy Buffalo Band and all those incarnations. And I grew up listening to country music. I remember waiting at the end of the driveway for the school bus out on Rural Route 4 out by the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
And I'd sit in my dad's Suburban, so we'd have the heat on, and we'd listen to country radio every morning until the bus came. I mean, this is just right in my wheelhouse. It was something I just felt compelled to write.
Well, let's take a listen to it. Everybody, this is This Old Honky Tonk, written by Eric Nelson.
I'll never forget our first line dance. Boot scoot and boogie led to true romance. You came over and you took off my tough guy face. But I got nervous, it was hard to hide when I couldn't show you my electric slide. You gave up and then you put me in my place. Now this old honky tonk just ain't big enough for the two of us. This old dance floor, it ain't got room for you and me. This old dive bar, it don't care how far apart that we've become. And this old exit sign says it's about time for me to leave. Charlie Brown for days. I said, sweetie, I'm just not a cha-cha guy. Now when I see you dancing with your friends, I know that I'll never turn it out again. I ain't gonna wobble, but I'll probably break down and cry. Now this old honky tonk just ain't big enough for the two of us. This old dance floor, it ain't got room for you and me. This old dive bar, it don't care how far apart that we've become. And this old exit sign says it's about time for me to leave. says it's about time for me to leave.
That was This Old Honky Tonk by Eric Nelson. Now tell me a little bit about that, Eric. Come on.
I know. It's silly. I hope it wasn't too distorted for everybody. I know that was one of the knocks that I heard from a couple of folks. It's just, yeah, if you're going to do country, you don't go that rock and roll. But I couldn't help it, and B, I don't think it would be a Hold For Swank song if it wasn't that rockin'. My wife and I were about to move to Nashville when I wrote that song, and so I had it in mind that, we're going to go to country music capital of the world. And I'm walking our dog, Tilly, and I left the house and I started thinking of this song. I started thinking of the line dance. I think the phrase "This Old Honky Tonk" came to me first. And then it always jokes in my head about like something ain't big enough for the both of us or the two of us or whatever.
Right.
And those blended together. And then I thought, are there other ways I can say that? This old dance floor ain't got room for you and me.
Yeah.
This old dive bar instead of honky tonk, right? This old dive bar don't care, and so on and so forth. So I'm like, how many different ways can I say that? And that turned into the chorus. And then I thought, well, what do you do at a honky tonk? You line dance. Well, what line dances do I know? I know Electric Slide and Cha-Cha and the Charlie Brown this and all that. And by the time I got back home from walking the dog, 20 minutes later, the whole song was written.
Yeah.
Melody.
It comes to you that way.
It does. I love it. So intro, verse, chorus. I don't even think there's bridge. I knew what I wanted to do for the instrumentals. And I will say, again, growing up around my dad, around Shadrick Smith, and then looking ahead a handful of years at other bands, there was a band, and God bless his soul, the lead singer for the band Fountains of Wayne, they were the ones who did the song Stacy's Mom, I think is probably what they're best known for, from like 03 or whatever. There was a song on that same record. The song was called Hung Up on You, and it was a country tune, and it's so good. And I'm like, I want to write a country tune. I want to write it because that's how I grew up. I want to write it because we're moving to Nashville. Yep. I want to write it because if Fountains of Wayne can do it, so can I. And plop, it all just happened all at once.
Yay, I love that. We got to wrap it up here in a little bit, Eric, but let's talk a little bit about how people can find your music and, your links and everything.
Totally. Hold For Swank, right? HOLD FOR SWANK. And it's the silliest name ever, but I have to give credit where credit is due. A couple of friends of mine, Sparks and Scotto, two guys that I worked with at Sam Goody in Fort Dodge when I was in high school.
Sam Goody. I haven't thought about that for years. Okay.
Oh, wow. I know. When I started, it was Musicland, and then it was Sam Goody. Then it changed hands over to FYE. And in the meantime, people used to call and ask for CDs, and a guy called in and asked for a Meatloaf CD. And my friend Scotto said, I just need to put a name on it. And the guy said, Hold For Swank.
Oh,
and then, right. It's the most ridiculous thing.
Great name, though.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
So my friend Sparks knew a guy who had just gone on a real awkward blind date with a girl named Amy. And he said, he met her the first time and said, Amy, I suggest. And Sparks said, he came back to work the next day and he said, all right, Hold For Swank, like Scotto wrote on the CD, and Amy, I suggest, which our dorky friend said on a blind date. He said, one of them is a band name and one of them is a song. You go figure it out. And I did.
Hold For Swank, it's the band name.
It's the band name. And so it's Google Hold For Swank. You'll find us on Facebook. You'll find really the important ones are we're on Spotify. Mm-hmm. We're on Apple Music. We're all over YouTube. All of our albums are there to stream to. We've got some of our live concert footage there too. So if you're into listening, we've got plenty of ways to listen to us.
All right. Well, we'll make sure to share those links with our fans. And do you have any closing words?
I'm excited to get out and play again. I'm grateful. Yeah. I'm grateful for our hometown. Honestly, where else would you grow up with that sort of do it yourself, make your own fun type of like inspiration? Yeah. Of course, to my parents for giving me the foundation and buying me records at Musicland when I was 4. and then letting me work there when I was 16, right? And just my buddies who have been so supportive, and the people who have come out of the woodwork after all these years and said, I've had friends say, I learned how to play guitar from playing along with your first album. And I'm like, I honestly never, ever would have thought that writing songs in my bedroom and playing along with the Blue Album by Weezer would turn into something as fun and rewarding as it has been. So just a blast. And Heather, I'm glad we could talk about it.
I'm so glad to have you tonight, Eric. Again, you will be the artist of the month for July, and so we will play it the whole month of July. It's eternally on YouTube, so this will be great to put into your promo package.
Love it. I will
my
absolutely
pleasure,
do that.
Eric. Thank you so much. And anytime you have a new release, send it my way. I'll drop it onto our station. So
100% will do that. Thanks.
All right. It's been a blessing. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
All right.
You've been listening to the Indie Music Room with Heather Kelly. Be sure to listen every Saturday and Sunday right here on FortDodgeRadio.com and subscribe for all our past and upcoming shows. The Indie Music Room is a production of FortDodgeRadio.com.